The Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule, is a concept which can completely change the way you approach your life, making you more productive, happy, and even wealthy if you use it right. In this video, I'll explain how it works, how I use it, and give you 5 ways that you can utilize the Pareto principle to your advantage. The general precept is that 20% of the input produces 80% of the output and vice versa. For example, 20% of the clients generally produce 80% of the sales, 20% of the bugs are responsible for 80% of the crashes, and 20% of any efforts we make produce 80% of the actual results. And while the actual numbers may fluctuate, the point is there's always a huge disparity between the input and the output, and we can use that knowledge to concentrate our efforts on what's most important instead of giving equal attention to everything. Actually, forget about the numbers, just think in terms of trivial many and vital few whenever I mention the principle. The first and more or less classic use of the 80-20 rule is about optimizing your money-making strategies. Let's say you start selling t-shirts online, then some of your designs would inevitably outsell the others by quite a big margin. The goal is to find the pattern behind the successful designs while also figuring out what just doesn't seem to work and optimizing your future designs to that knowledge. Or let's take blogging as another example, then 20% of your posts would generate 80% of your traffic. Not only can you try to learn the successful pattern, but you can also drive the traffic from those posts to your other pages, making more affiliate sales and add revenue in the process. Using the Pareto principle also lets you find and fix most vital mistakes that may be causing the bottleneck effect. Let's say you have a website. No matter how good it is, if it doesn't load fast enough, 80% of users would close it in a matter of seconds, and that's a lot of lost traffic which was already yours. If you overlook the loading speed, you're effectively wasting 80% of your efforts over something that trivial. The principle can also be used for optimizing your workflow. For example, as an editor, I'm guilty of spending way too much time perfecting my cuts and animations, however, I'm pretty sure that no one would even notice any difference whatsoever. Using the principle doesn't mean you should completely ignore less important aspects of your job or deliver unpolished products, but rather hints you that not all of your efforts are equal, and most importantly, some of them mean much less than we used to think. The 80-20 rule is extremely valuable when you need to set up your goals. Modern world bombards us with possibilities, and you can go for thousands of different things in your life. The common mistake that many of us do is picking a few goals and going for them simultaneously, while evenly spreading our efforts. The problem is, our energy is not limitless, and by slowly progressing over a multitude of things at once, we might get tired and discouraged at some point, since the results just wouldn't match our efforts. There is a world of difference between having 5 things at 20% of completion and one fully accomplished thing. The Pareto principle lets you rank your goals by their impact on your life. Make a list of what you want to achieve and ask yourself, if I could have one thing right now, what would make the most positive impact on my life? And there is a good chance that the top 1 or 2 goals would make the most drastic changes, while the rest would simply complement that, so you know which ones you should concentrate on first and foremost. By doing just one big thing at a time, you will make more progress and see the results faster, which is a huge psychological benefit. As a side effect, you stop blaming yourself for not doing all the things you should do, quote unquote. You decide what's important and what's not, and act without remorse. We already talked about optimizing the workflow, but what about your free time? And no, I'm not gonna preach about deleting your social media accounts, dropping video games, and living like a monk. I think the most valuable thing in our free time, and in general of course, is our happiness and sense of fulfillment, and this is where you should apply the Pareto principle in your daily time management. It's not about doing all the things, it's about doing things that make your life better. Think about how you spend your average day, what do you do and for how long, and how do you feel after doing it? I personally find gaming more fun than reading, but strangely enough I feel better after reading a book than after spending half of my day playing video games. And it doesn't really matter why. If something makes you genuinely more happy instead of just feeding your brain with dopamine, then why not just do it more often? 20% of the things we do and people we connect with bring 80% of our joy and happiness. Whenever we do something out of pure boredom, there's a good chance it gives us minimal return, and we should really try to replace that with something more fulfilling. But what about the actual time management? No matter what you plan during your day, these things are not the same in value, and you should always do the most important ones first, even if they are the hardest. Many of us tend to start with small and unimportant tasks, just to get something done, but the problem is, we might simply end up not having enough time and energy for something that's important. Our daily routine consists of different habits, and managing them properly might be all the difference between failure and success. If you want to pick a new good habit or drop a bad one, you should also apply the Pareto principle instead of just acting randomly, and here's why. Our brain hates changes. It builds neural connections for the things we do regularly, but it requires around 3 to 4 weeks to do so, whatever habit you pick. So you'd be better off choosing the one which goes along with your goals and which would make the most drastic changes to your life. So if your main concern is health, for example, you should prioritize exercising over reading until it really sticks with you, and only then consider building another habit. It's easy to think that you can do it all at once, but in reality it can be overwhelming, and just like with your goals, dedicating yourself to just one essential thing at a time increases the chances that you would actually stick to this habit in the long run. Habits you pick must serve a clear purpose, or else on a bad day you just wouldn't find enough reason to do it and it would fall off rather quickly. Using Pareto principle to eliminate some of your bad habits is also essential. Rank them by their negative impact, be it your health, mood or something else, and concentrate all of your efforts on getting rid of just number one at first. It's always better to go slowly but accomplish something rather than the opposite. I know, not everyone loves reading, and it's exactly why you should use the Pareto principle. Even if you're not into books, there is still a lot of text information on the internet, and the 80-20 rule hints that 80% of it could be pretty much ignored. Most books and articles can be concised in a short 20% version, and even then there are still filler words and conjunctions you can virtually skip. The speed reading technique implies that you don't need to read all the words to understand and remember what you've read, and by ignoring what's non-essential and only grasping the essence of any given text, you can improve your reading speed 5 and even 10-fold. But even if you don't have any speed reading expertise, you can still apply the Pareto principle, especially while browsing the internet, since the information is often optimized for the search engine and not the human reader. This is why almost every article is overstuffed with keywords, especially in its first half. So instead of reading it word by word, you might want to start from the very end and read the conclusion first, which is more likely to have what you've been looking for, or have a brief summary of a whole article, giving you all the core information and saving you a lot of time. Before making this video, I've actually read a few books about the Pareto principle, and ironically enough, they follow it as well. However, the devil is always in detail, and while this video might give you some ideas on how to use the Pareto principle, if you want to get a better understanding, you should consider taking a look at these books. You will find the links to all of them in the description. The Pareto principle is a very powerful tool, and hopefully now you will consider taking it to your arsenal. And remember, it's not about the actual numbers, but about concentrating your efforts on what's most essential. Share your story in the comments if you've been using the principle, and let me know if you found this video helpful and whether you'd like to see more content like this in the future. Thank you for watching, and be at peace.